On March the 19th, 2020, in the UK, the public health bodies and the Advisory Committee on Dangerous Pathogens decided that the coronavirus should no longer be classified as a high-consequence infectious disease, a disease with a high fatality rate, because it could safely be downgraded. I'm using notes here, by the way, to make sure I get all this absolutely right. I don't have a teleprompter. The decision to downgrade the coronavirus to the level of a more or less ordinary infection wasn't published on the government website until 2 days later, March the 22nd. I don't know why they waited 2 days. A few days later, the country was put into lockdown. And on the 26th of March, after the official bodies had downgraded the coronavirus, the government published a new 358-page long emergency bill, which either they just happened to have lying around in a drawer, or which they'd put together very quickly, or which they'd put together sometime earlier. The 358-page emergency bill, which you may not have heard of, can be read on gov.uk, and it gives concise new powers to Parliament, to the police, and to immigration officers. It modifies mental health legislation, bans public meetings, gives the government powers to restrict the disclosure of information, and so on. Vaccinations mentioned, of course. You may not have heard about this bill, but it's there, and the details are on my website. Parliament was disbanded, and MPs then went home. Food for thought, you might think. Now, here are some more facts that you might not be aware of. 1. A study at Oxford University by eminent specialists concluded that the coronavirus could have already infected half of the British population. And separately, a major poll concluded that around a third of Britons think it's likely or fairly likely that they've already had the virus. These are very important results, because it suggests that the government policy in the UK may not be the right one. It would obviously be extremely useful to know how many people in Britain have had the coronavirus or have it now. In the same way that it's difficult to treat a patient without making a diagnosis, so it's difficult to deal with a pandemic unless you've done fairly massive testing. However, the other day I worked out at the rate the British government is testing people at the moment, they will not finish testing the British population until the year 2036. That's 16 years away. Even the British government has admitted that the real figures for those people who are infected could well be 10 or 20 times the current estimate. And that would massively affect the suggested mortality rates. Next fact, it's been decided that the National Health Service in the UK must prioritise the coronavirus over everything else. So, for example, surgery for patients who have cancer and who are waiting for essential surgery has been delayed. How many people are going to die because of this? No one knows. But I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that more people will die from the coronavirus remedies introduced by the government than will die from the coronavirus. And there will be considerably more deaths, of course, because of the poor diet people are eating. It's almost impossible to get vegetables and fruit in supermarkets from what I've seen. People aren't getting enough exercise, and a lot of people are very stressed for a whole variety of reasons. And don't forget, of course, that death rates rise dramatically when unemployment figures go up. And there's a very good chance that when this is finished, employment figures are going to rocket. Next fact concerns Italy, which appears to have a very high death rate from the coronavirus, and it's often quoted to show how dangerous the virus is. However, Professor Ricciardi the scientific advisor to Italy's Minister of Health, has said that anyone who dies in Italy who has the coronavirus will be listed as having died of it. So if a patient is 85 and dying of cancer, but happens to have caught the coronavirus in hospital, then their death will be listed as having been caused by the coronavirus and not the cancer. I rather suspect, incidentally, that this is now happening in the UK, where the coronavirus, strangely, is still a notifiable disease, despite having been downgraded, as I mentioned earlier. Back to Italy, where the average age at death of patients dying from the coronavirus is nearly 80. And a study by the National Institute of Health showed, after re-evaluating the death certificates in Italy, that only 12% showed a direct causality from the coronavirus, and 88% of the people in Italy who had died and had been put down as having died of the coronavirus had either 1, 2, or 3 serious underlying diseases. Those figures significantly alter the Italian statistics for coronavirus. Fact 4, just for comparison and to put things into perspective, which is something that we seem to have lost sight of in recent weeks. The US Centers for Disease Control reported that during the last few months, the ordinary flu has infected 38 million Americans, put 390,000 Americans in hospital, and killed 23,000 Americans. Those are figures, remember, just for America. Next fact. There has been at least one report that I've seen that in the UK, people over the age of 75 will no longer be admitted to hospital, whatever's wrong with them. And there are some very scary stories coming out which confirm the fear I expressed in my first video. Fears that were, of course, widely mocked by people who are perhaps a little less thoughtful about these things. Fact 6. Figures collected by the European Monitoring of Excess Mortality for Public Health Action show that there have been substantially fewer deaths altogether in 2020 than there were in 2019, 2018 and 2017. The next fact is that locking people in their homes may well temporarily stop the spread of the coronavirus. But what are they going to do? Are they going to keep people in, as has been suggested by some, until a vaccine appears in 12 or 18 months' time? The thing is, if the government now decides to let people out before then, there will inevitably be a spike in the number of cases, because there isn't much immunity around in the community amongst people in general. And that will then give the authorities all the reason they need to reintroduce lockdown. This could go on for months and months and months, and even over a year. There's been much debate about where the government got its predictions from and how they were obtained. The number of projected deaths from the coronavirus in the UK was officially 500,000 to start with, but now appears to have been strangely reduced to 20,000, which is the sort of number that one would expect with the ordinary flu. And incidentally, flu does kill young and healthy individuals in much the same way as the coronavirus. Pneumonia is pneumonia is pneumonia. I've been studying medical problems for over 50 years, and I've got a good track record. And I believe that the number of people who will die from the official lock-in and from the alleged cure for this problem will far exceed the number who will die from the disease. All deaths are tragedies, but the deaths of those patients whose essential cancer operations and so on have been delayed are just as real as the deaths of those people who are dying of coronavirus. There are many more facts about this whole scandal on my website, www.vernoncoleman.com. I've recorded this short video because I think that this subject needs debating more thoroughly than has been done in Parliament or in the media. And I think that's probably the real scandal. As before, I haven't authorized any advertising, and if there is any advertising linked to this video, it's there without my permission or knowledge, because the video has been taken by somebody else. Thanks for watching. If you think these facts are important, then please share them with anyone that you think might be interested and who might care. Again, there are more details and all the backup information is on my website. Everything I told you is absolutely genuine.